Find all solutions of 5 times the cosine of 2x times 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0 on the range 0 to pi. So we are only interested in solutions x from here to here on the winding circle. So the first step in this case is we can divide both sides by 5, and this 5 will go away, and that'll simplify things a little bit. And that will reduce this to cosine of 2x multiplied by 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0. In this case, we have one quantity times another quantity is equal to 0. And because of that, you can say one of two things is going on. Either the cosine of 2x is equal to 0, or 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0. So we have two different equations to solve. Let's start with this one here on the left. Well, if the cosine of 2x is equal to 0, the way you think about that is you ask the question, where on the winding circle is the cosine equal to 0? Well, the cosine starts out as 1 here, which means that the cosine function is 0 up here at pi over 2. That's the same as saying 2 times x, that angle, is equal to pi over 2. But there is a second place where the cosine of some angle is equal to 0, right? Cosine starts at 1 here, goes to 0, to -1, and it's back to 0 here at 3 pi over 2. So the second thing you can do is come to this equation and write 2x is equal to 3 pi over 2. The way you solve this first equation for x is you divide both sides by 2. When you do so, you get x is equal to pi over 4. And the way you solve this equation is you divide both sides by 2. And when you do so, you get x equals 3 pi divided by 4. And notice that both of those solutions, if you take a look, x equals pi over 4 is falling right here on the unit circle, and x equals 3 pi over 4 is falling right here. So both of those do fall in the range from 0 to pi. Now there is a second equation to work on, and that is the equation right here. And the way you solve that equation is you subtract 1 from both sides of that equation. When you subtract 1 from the left-hand side of the equation, you get 2 cosine x. When you subtract 1 from the right-hand side of the equation, you get -1. Next thing you can do here is divide both sides of that equation by 2. When you do so, you get cosine x equals -1/2. Now at this point, you want to ask the question, what angle x will give me a cosine of -1/2 on this range? Since the cosine is the first component, you're asking which angle here has a cosine of -1/2, and you recognize that angle as 2 pi over 3. So we can end this one as x is equal to 2 pi divided by 3. So those are the three angles. They're listed here on the winding circle, this one, and this one. If you wanted to express those as degrees, you could do so. Pi over 4 is the same as 45 degrees. 2 pi over 3 is 120 degrees. And finally, 3 pi over 4 is 135 degrees. So there they are expressed as radians. There they are expressed in degrees.